Hello and welcome to another episode of the Danielle K White Show, you guys. I have an amazing guest that I recently met in Miami, but I kind of feel like we already have a connection. We were talking before the show, and I love her story. Melissa Waage. Welcome. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did.
I'm so bad at names, and I'm like, I can't botch you on the show.
You nailed it.
Good. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on. I've been following a little bit of your story. I've been to one of your events, Epic Talks, and I've just been kind of impressed with who you are as a person. And also, I love that you are a powerful businesswoman, and you come across very feminine.
Okay.
I just really like that energy about you. So on my podcast, I really like to find out people's stories of success, because you see them in the spotlight, you see you on the stages, you see Epic Talks, and I kind of like to go back and find out, your mindset and where you came from originally. I mean, I've heard a little bit of your backstory, but I think it's so empowering, when others share their story because it gives other people permission to grow.
Hey you guys, it's Danielle K White. Welcome to the Danielle K White Show. On this podcast, what you can expect is anything from fashion, fitness, hair, and yes, even family. I'm the creator of Natural Vita Real Hair Extensions and Isla Hand-Tied Hair. But what I'm really passionate about is sharing other people's stories, how they went from the pit to the peak, how entrepreneurs build the success that you see online today. So definitely tune into this podcast for a good story and a little bit of fashion and a little bit of hair and beauty mixed in.
Right? So let's go back and tell me kind of a little bit about your background. And I know, like I said, listening to a little bit of your story, I was like, wow, how did she turn the corner?
Well, I have the blessing to have a different and unique story. I was a foster child, and my parents were heroin addicts.
Wow.
So I went into the foster care system at the age of 3.
Oh, wow.
And I went to different homes until thankfully I had a Christian home that taught me about God and Jesus, you know what I mean? And all the values and morals and beliefs that I live by now. So I'm grateful for that. However, it wasn't always easy. I ended up leaving my house at the age of 15. So I've been on my own since I was 15. And, I just always knew that I was meant for greatness, and I didn't know what my life was going to turn out, but I was never a victim of my circumstances. I always believed in myself. I always knew I could conquer anything. I always, was a little leader and, was the one that always would start something from the beginning and it would enroll my friends into doing something awesome. So
you kind of, even at a young age, despite your circumstances, had a positive outlook?
Always, yes.
Really? How many foster homes did you go through?
I went through 2 foster homes that I can remember.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do you have any relationship with your parents?
I do. Well, my foster parents, I still have a relationship with them. I'm going to go see them for my niece's wedding this weekend. And then my biological mom, she's like my best friend. She's amazing. She's heroin addict turned minister.
Oh, wow.
With her own church. My father, my biological father, unfortunately, he died of an overdose 2 years ago. So, and it's crazy to see how when someone really wants to change, they can. My mother
and the other side,
and then the other person, and yeah.
Wow. How did you re-spark that relationship with your biological mother?
It was basically I tried to move back in with her, and that was a really difficult transition, because she didn't raise me. So there was a lot of resentment.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Resentment and just maybe lack of respect from my part because I had suffered so much because of her decisions, However, back to what I said before, I'm not a victim of that, so you can't preach something you haven't lived. You know what I mean? So when I was coaching people one-on-one, like I mentioned to you with Detoxify Your Mind, people would come to me with their adversities with their parents and, betrayal and loneliness and abandonment. And I was able to help them more because I went through that.
What age did you try to move back in with your mom?
15.
Oh, at 15.
Yeah.
And so that didn't work, and then you went off on your own?
Yeah. I started kind of house hopping with my high school friends.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, how do you move out when you're 15? So it was just like whatever friend could take you in for a little while.
Exactly.
Did you graduate high school?
I did.
You did.
Yes.
And how did you continue to have that relationship with your mom? Like, how did you let go
Well,
of
I
all
didn't
that?
talk to her for a while
okay.
after that, and I can't even remember when we reconnected. There was a point that I hated her. Where like this hate that just disgust and just didn't want anything to do with her.
Yeah.
And then I ended up moving to New York City and whatever. And I honestly, I can't remember when I re-sparked that relationship with her, but I'm happy that I did.
Yeah, let go of all kind of like past judgments and guilt. Do you think your foster parents helped really rewire your mindset? You said you kind of came to God, and did you feel a different outlook at that time at like a young age?
No, I was disconnected from them too, because as I was growing up, I hated them as well.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? I just felt like I felt a little off and different because I was the foster child. You know what I mean? And then my brother was also part of the family, but he became rebellious, so they had to kick him out and send him back to the foster care system, and then went to like juvenile detention and all that stuff, you know? So there was just a lot of like transitioning that I had to experience as a child. I don't feel at the time I had the best treatment, you know? So, but again, it's part of my journey, and the way I look at it is I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through the things that I went through, you know, and I'm grateful for it, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you talk about detoxifying your mind, now this is your book.
Yes.
Is this your only book?
Well, I have
You
a
have
second one coming out.
Coming out. Okay. So when you think of detoxifying your mind, like what does that mean to you?
Detoxifying your mind, what it means for me is rewiring your brain to become a better version of yourself. Okay, so what got me here is not going to get me there.
Right.
So can I tell you why I wrote that book?
Yeah.
Okay, so I went through a divorce. I left my husband, right, after a 10-year marriage.
Wow.
And I went through 2 years of partying like a rock star. I say it was kind of like me harming myself, but I have no regrets, if that makes any sense.
Just got it out of there, got it out of the system.
I had fun, you know what I mean? But I remember waking up one morning and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, "Are you proud of the woman you've become?" Because I woke up with my shoes on, my makeup all over the place, like hungover. And I went to the mirror and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know? So, and I always say this, and I think I said this on stage last time you were at Epic Talks, and I said, if you want a real answer, don't go seeking advice from anyone. Go to the mirror and ask yourself the question out loud. Because your soul will never lie to you. Your eyes will never lie to you. And God lives within us.
Right.
So God's not going to lie to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was basically a rude awakening that I had. And then within those days, I saw an ad that said, reignite your life, your finance, your future, free ticket. And I was like, free ticket? And do you know who Alexi Panos is? Preston's spouse? They're an amazing power couple. They're motivational speakers. And I called her. She's a friend of mine. And I said, Alexi, have you ever heard of T. Harv Eker from Peak Potentials, A Millionaire Mind? She goes, no. And I was like, well, they're offering like a free ticket. It's 3 days. I would have to fly there, get my hotel. And she goes, if there's one positive thing that you get out of it, it's a win situation. So I booked my flight. I booked my hotel. And those 3 days changed my life.
Wow.
I ended up investing, obviously, like around $10,000. I spent 2 years in personal development, emotional intelligence classes, going to train the trainer, warrior camp, real estate investing, like all these things. But I was surrounding myself with people that wanted something better, with people that wanted to elevate their lives. I wasn't partying anymore. I wasn't doing, drinking or trying drugs and stuff like that, right? So, and then I just decided that I wanted to get into personal development to help pay it forward. Wow. So to detoxify your mind, I basically took you to the journey that I went through when I first got into going to warrior camp and peak potentials and all that. So discovery process, like who you are and who do you want to become and what are the things that you have to do to get to the next level.
What was that in the first event that you went to that kind of changed your life? What was it? Was there a certain moment where you're like, wow, like a light bulb kind of went off? Or
it was the moment that the first speaker got on stage. It was Ruben Mata, my favorite Mexican, I call him. We're still friends to this day. And he just started speaking truth about like, do you want change in your life? Do you want to, you know, become the best version of you? Do you know what I mean? And like, and having all these questions, you know, basically setting you up for you to say, yes, yes,
Right,
yes.
right.
You know how that goes, right? So
Like, what am I signing up for? But I love it.
So just listening to all these amazing speakers that have done the work, you know, if you and I right now had a young girl that's going through it, we could easily change her life with a 5-minute conversation,
Right.
because we've been there, we've done that, we've done it over and over and over again,
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it was basically changing my environment.
So then when you went to that event and then you decided you went to multiple events and then you wanted to get into personal development, when did you finally make that shift where you're like, this is what I want to be in, this is my path? Because we were talking before the show and you're like, I was in the beauty space, I was this, and it's like, it's funny because even though I'm in the beauty space, I'm very much in the like
Personal development,
development. Like if you look at my social media page, half the time people don't even know that I do hair, you know? So what was it that you decided you're like, this is something that I'm passionate about? And how did you move forward with that? Because I think there's a lot of people that want to get into the coaching space, but they're like, what am I going to offer? How do I do this? Where do I start? How did you start in that journey?
Well, I was in medical sales at the time.
Okay.
And I remember that going through the personal development phase, it changed my life so much. And I remember being in my office in my house in Las Vegas, and I was like, I was feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? I'm like, I need to share my story. I need to share that I was a foster child. My parents were heroin addicts, that I've gone through this. I was homeless.
Yeah.
You know, I got kicked out of high school and told by my principal that I was just another Latina statistic who would never amount to anything.
Wow.
You know? So I had to finish high school on my own on this curriculum that they had. And, you know, and just going through so much adversity. And I'm like, how can I be a voice for the lost? You know? So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to start going to events. I'm going to start networking, and I'm going to become a speaker one day, and I'm going to have my own book, and I'm going to have my own radio show. And I'm literally speaking
Putting
truth into
there.
my life. You know what I mean? And so I moved back to Miami, and I was walking over the bridge in Brickell, and I just thought to myself, I'm not finding networking events that are inspiring me. I'm not finding networking events that are elevating my life. You know, it was just not what I wanted. I'm like, I'm going to move away. And then I was like, no, don't move away. God told me. He planted that seed in that moment as I was walking over the bridge. And he said, if it doesn't exist, you're going to create it. So from the moment that I had my first event, the first idea to my first event was only 3 days.
Oh, wow.
I grabbed the phone. I called a girlfriend of mine. She's a law professor at the University of Miami. And I said, Alicia, I'm throwing an event and I want to help people change their lives. I've never spoken on stage and I'm nervous. Can you come and speak with me? She's like, okay. She thought I was BSing her. So I went to Canva that same day. I took a picture of her, picture of me. And at the time I called it Epic Life Masters. Okay. And I went to FedEx Kinko. I printed out 100 flyers, passed them in downtown in Brickell, which is nothing that it is now, right? We're talking about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And then I rented a ballroom. I got some wine, cheese, and crackers from Whole Foods. And I waited, and 15 people showed up to my first event.
Yeah.
8 of those were my friends.
Okay.
But I even have pictures of this. And I remember like sharing my story from stage. And I just felt like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that was my first event. And then my second event, I had it 3 months later. And what I did is I brought some influencers that had a big name. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to speak on stage? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So my second event had 120 people. It was Jason Stone, Andres Ospina, Luis Escobar. We all put an event together, and we did that for free for a full year.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't charging tickets or anything. I didn't even know how to monetize it. You know?
Yeah. Did you do it just because you felt like that's what you like called to do? Did you sell anything on stage at that time?
No,
or?
I didn't even know
really?
like the value stacking and all that stuff and how to make money.
But you know what
nothing.
that you keep saying is you're like, hey, then I had like a conversation with God, and another thing you said, you're like, God lives and speaks within us.
Yeah.
And that resonates with me because so many times in my life when I have made a decision to go, there's no guarantees. I'm like, hey, but God kind of shows you, like he can show you the stage and you're like, oh, I'm already there. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I think it's our responsibility when we feel that prompt as humans to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, God showed me what's possible. And, you know, the first time you do an event, you're like, I didn't know what I was doing. 8 of them were my friends.
Yeah.
But the thing that people don't get, that entrepreneurs don't understand, they're not entrepreneurs, but people that even aren't entrepreneurs, is there's no magic pill. And you have to have the faith that you can figure it out. And so you start with one, and then you go with the next. And sometimes, like, when you're like, I don't know, I didn't even have an offer. It's like, well, your God's like saying, do this, and you'll figure it out along the way.
Exactly.
Right. And it's like, you never know, even like with podcasting or things like that, you never know who's going to come into your life. And then later you kind of like full circle reconnect. Right. You know what I mean? So you're doing these events and they're going well, and you did them for a year straight. And then where did it go from there?
So then I was like, okay, I'm going to charge $15 a ticket. And I was so scared. I'm like, nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to pay. And I remember someone told me, they're like, no, the right people are going to stay.
Yeah.
And then the wrong people are going to fall off, you know, because I had food, I had drinks. Like, you know, I ordered like, you know, the events people to bring chairs and all this stuff. So I had to monetize it somehow, right? So then I was like, they're getting so much value. There was so much value, so much connections, interaction, and I still wasn't monetizing it, and I wanted to get out of medical sales.
Oh, okay. That's right. You were in medical sales.
So, and then I was like, oh my God, okay, $30 a ticket, right? And then the pandemic happens.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like...
You're like, I just got going.
And then... I think it was in the first 3 months, like I didn't have an event, but then I was like, I'm not going to let my dream die.
Yeah.
So, and you know, in Miami, things weren't as strict as everywhere else in the world and in the States, right?
Right.
So, I basically told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, can I use your art studio so I could throw an event here? Because it was all like covered.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoever wants to show up. She's like, yeah. Her and her husband were like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So I did it again, but this one I charged $50 a ticket. So, and then again, like around 15 people showed up.
Yeah.
My team showed up. Everybody showed up, and it was great. We had Brian Mayoral. He was one of the top Tony Robbins sales guys when he first moved to Miami. Good friend of mine, and basically I continued doing it, and then they had canceled Swim Week and they had canceled Art Basel, and I was like, I'm gonna do a Swim Week Art Basel event. And I'm going to do it at the SLS.
Yeah.
I contacted SLS, and then things were kind of starting to opening up, but they weren't doing the massive event.
Right.
I got a girlfriend of mine. I said, hey, I want you to do a fashion show, because she's like a fashion runway expert. She's friends with designers that have J-Lo's dresses and like Lady Gaga and all this stuff. Yeah. We got 20 models. We put red carpets all around the SLS pool at the Hyde Beach here in South Beach. I had performers. I had friends that are in the music industry that were performing. I threw a massive event. 400 people showed up.
Oh, wow.
$150 I sold the tickets for.
Oh, wow. And when was that?
That was literally still in the middle of the pandemic. I think, how long ago was the pandemic?
I know.
Like 5 years ago? 5 years ago,
yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Actually, four years. And then I'm like, I'm not bringing down my prices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So when did you get out of medical sales?
I got out of medical sales, I would say 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when did you officially create Epic Talks? Is that your main stage right now?
Yeah, that's my main stage. And then, I was doing one-on-one coaching also.
Yeah.
And then I launched the Inner Circle, because what started to happen is like people were like, hey, we want to take you to dinner. We want to do this. We want to da-da-da. How do we get access to your community? How do we get access to other events? And I was like, I'm going to create an Inner Circle. So I hired my coach, James Malinchak, and I told him what I wanted. He helped me create my offer. And then now we have the Epic Talks Inner Circle for $10,000 for the year.
Oh, there you go. See, from what was
from
it, 15? From free
to
$10,000. And so that launched 3 years ago. No.
Yeah, the Inner Circle launched 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And you wrote your book. This is how old?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. So this was Detoxifying Your Mind was just like what you needed to go. Right? What advice when you're coaching, when people are like, how do I detoxify my mind? How do I get out of this pit to arrive and have the success they see you have? Well,
I have them get my book, and then I also take them through a questionnaire that helps them have a breakthrough at the end of it. You know, so what are the most fascinating things about you? Who are you as a person? What are you so unique at? What is your fascinating fields? Like, what do you like to talk about, right? So it's like an hour. It takes a process like an hour. And by the end of it, I have a mission statement for them. And when I read it to them, they're like, poof, oh my God, this is why I haven't been happy, because I'm in a business that I'm not in love with, or I'm doing something that I'm not crazy about. This is my zone of genius, you know? So when you're working out of your zone of genius, you're not in alignment with your assignment, like Tim Storia would say, right? Tim is one of my coaches and great friends of mine. And he's like,
say that again, when you're not
when you're not in alignment
with
you're
in the assignment.
Yeah, you're not working in your assignment.
Okay, gotcha.
You know what I mean? So basically, if you are feeling off, that is because you're not in alignment with your assignment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, and a lot of people get stuck there. So I help you get unstuck.
It's crazy that there's so much truth to that, because for me, I had kind of built up my hair business, and I had gotten to this place where I was like, oh, I don't have to be in it anymore. It's kind of at some level running itself. And that year specifically, I was like, something is off. I was like, something, I just could feel it. And I actually started to get kind of depressed.
Yep.
And that's when I realized, I was
God.
like, I'm not in my genius, or I'm not doing, like you said, I'm not doing the assignment. And it's funny because even though I was like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore, it's making enough revenue, I can kind of step back, I realized I needed to step back in order to get to the next level of my genius, right?
Yeah,
so I think that people, you can ride in a specific lane, or you're in your purpose and you're in your passion, and all of a sudden you kind of like hit this like standstill. And then a lot of entrepreneurs self-sabotage. And then you're like, wait, I'm just out of alignment with my assignment. How do you coach people to get back? You know, this can happen at every level. It's not just like 100%. People just starting a business. You can have multimillionaires that are like, I'm off. How do you help realign them in their assignment? Just by asking a series of questions?
Well, they basically get to get on a coaching call with me and join the community, and we could take them through a discovery process, right? It's not... what's that saying? It's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's different. So it's like having a simple conversation like me and you right now, you know, and I like to become kind of like friends with the person as I'm talking to them, so they feel more comfortable, and then we go into the discovery process. Okay. And everybody's different. Like, you know, I'll be like, what is like the toughest thing that you're dealing with right now? You know, or if I see that your energy is great, I'm like, okay, what are you most excited about right now? You know, and where do you feel like you would need the most support with at the moment? Right. Where do you think you're slipping and falling in life right now? You know, where's your mindset at? Right. You know, from 1 to 10, you know, so there's so many different questions, but again, it depends like the energy that I'm feeling.
Yeah. What do you do for you that helps you like be at your optimized self? Like it makes you be, I think it's hard when you're coaching other people, because you kind of have to show up for yourself first in order to coach other people. I was doing a hair event just 2 days ago, and I woke up with like a really bad migraine, and I'm like, oh, I just am feeling off. And for me, I'm like, okay, I just need to kind of get out of this headspace. So I go, you know, I'll meditate. I'll kind of go through like a little morning series that I like to do. And then I like went for like, I didn't have any time. So I went for like a run. I was like, I'm just going to go for a run and come back. Do you have things that help keep you, you know, on point I think it's hard when you're coaching other people. Do you have like routines that help keep you on point? Like,
yeah, for me, a non-negotiable is the morning prayer group.
Oh, okay.
Every morning. So I wake up at 4:50 every morning, and it's only 20 minutes. So it's from 5 a.m. to 5:20. Okay. And I just moved to the ocean, right on the beach. I was living in Brickell for a while, and I just knew it was my time to go. And I've been waking up to watching the sunrise. And at night, I go and dip my feet in the ocean and, you know, release everything. The ocean is healing. And somebody said this the other day, and it really left an imprint in my heart. And they said, the ocean is the earth breathing. When the waves are going and coming in. There is like it is a thing that
you know
like,
it makes you, like.
And I was like, when they said that, I'm like, that hit me so hard in my heart. I'm like, I love this. It's true. Yeah. You know, so it's my way of me talking to God. I don't really call friends with any issues that I might be having or anything. I literally go into the ocean, and I go look at myself in the mirror, and I talk to God.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you? It's so crazy, because I think a lot of times, but you have groups that you're a part of that you like kind of feel like they're your coaches and things like that. So you can kind of have. I think that every coach needs a coach.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because it's like you got to have somebody to kind of navigate and figure out life.
Yeah.
So what are you most passionate about right now?
Scaling Epic Talks to a global brand, because I see the way it's impacting people, and I want to do it on the masses. You know, like when your husband came on stage, he's like, you need 500 people here. You need to be running ads. So I'm most excited this month about starting to run ads.
Oh, you've built it with no ads so
Nothing.
far?
Organic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've had over 7,000 people come through my doors. And every single month is a different topic. So people are like, oh, they'll come to this one or not come to that one. We have AI, real estate, marketing and branding, like the one that you were at, taxes with Edward Collins, so topics that are going to help entrepreneurs level up.
So it's basically like taking somebody in their expertise.
Yep.
And that's what an epic talk is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we want to talk about branding and marketing. We're going to bring in Rudy. I think that's the one
Yeah,
I went
yeah,
to.
Rudy,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's like your big thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing that you went from, the circumstances you had and you were like, I don't accept this. And that you're like, I'm going to create. Did you always see like a big life for yourself?
I always knew that I was meant for greatness. And I'm a true believer that greatness attracts greatness, which is the reason why I believe I have the people I have in my life. I literally have access to anybody that I want. I just pick up the phone and I have their phone number in my phone. You
do know everybody.
So I believe greatness attracts greatness, and I'm a giver. I'm a giver, and I really care about people. I want to help you. I want to help you win. I want to help you succeed. I'm the kind of person that if I see a girl or a guy crying on the street, I'll go up to them and be like, hey, do you need help? Do you need anything? Like, are you okay?
Right.
Because, and I said this recently in an interview, I said, you never know who's walking around feeling suicidal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I want to be that hope for somebody that feels like giving up. Like, you don't get to give up. I'm in your life now.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a good example. I got in an Uber drive the other day and I was on the phone with a friend and I said to him, I was like, I'm about to talk about Jesus in this car. I'll call you back.
Really?
Yeah. And I get in the car and it's this, black guy with an afro, bubbly personality, right? And I was like, hey,
Before I even picked you up, you're like talking to this guy.
Yeah. Before I didn't even see the guy. Like I was
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm about to talk Jesus to my Uber driver.
Yeah.
And start talking. And it's funny because he ended up coming to the event that you were at.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, so what's your dream? He's like, my dream is to be a comedian, but also I'm an entrepreneur. Me and my wife just moved here. We have 2 kids. And, I just want to make it. Like, and I was like, I'm going to help you. And my event was the next following week, which is the one that Garrett came to speak at. And I was like, I'm going to give you 2 tickets to my event. And I told him, it's going to change your life. And then I also told him, I was like, I'm going to get you comedy gigs here. And they just moved here.
Oh.
Within 2 weeks, he was on 5 comedy shows because of my connections.
Oh, that's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then him and his wife came, and now we're great friends. They got involved into the prayer group, and now he's in Andrew's men's prayer group too.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, I just feel like people don't get to do this journey alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know what it is to feel forsaken, feel alone, feel that I wanted to kill myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, just feeling like this emptiness. And I was like, no, nobody gets to feel like this, especially if they know me.
Yeah, I love that. Just sitting here listening to you, I'm like, wow, your gift and your calling is to make people feel loved and connect them and to build the stage for them to have a voice. And it's interesting because Garrett and I both do events and people don't understand how hard it is to build the stage. Like, it's great to be like, oh, I want to be a keynote speaker and this and that, but it's harder, in my opinion, to build the stage. So what you're doing is massive because now you're giving people the opportunity, right?
100%.
And like you just said, like I'm a giver. I want people to feel loved. And so God's using you as a vessel to build these connections and to build these stages. And I think that when you start something with that intention, it's not if it will work out, it's you're in alignment
With your
assignment, right? So it's like, I think, if anybody's listening to this show, I think the biggest thing that you can understand is like, there's no like magic pill, there's no like, hey, here's the exact path of how you build a stage for Epic Talks. I think you just have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to take action. Yeah. And I feel like that's something you're speaking on this is like, hey, down to the Uber driver, hey, I got to talk to this guy about Jesus. Because I genuinely believe that the more that we can do that, like I really believe that all of us are vessels in different ways and that God can speak through us to other people. So I feel like you kind of have that same messaging. And so it's kind of cool to just like have you in my living room and see you so passionately like talking about it. And even then being like, I don't know how big it's going to go or what I kind of do, but I kind of don't, but you have the faith and the willingness to go. And so if anybody's listening, like I said, where are you at inside of your business where you're like kind of feeling stuck or out of alignment? And how do you fix that internally within yourself? How do you detoxify your mind? How do you get yourself in a place where you now can become a vessel? Because I genuinely believe that's what this life is about. And when you do that, like you're happier.
100%.
You know, when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're like, why do I feel like I'm in a funk? Do you ever? I mean, for me, there's times where I'm like, so excited and on fire, and then there's times I'm like, like kind of like feeling off. Do you ever have moments of that for yourself?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit a wall yesterday.
So you're human.
I've been going nonstop for 9 weeks, and then last week was my radio show marathon.
Yeah.
And my birthday the following day, and Epic Talks. And then I was just go, and it's a blessing that I have so many people that count on me. But you were also like responding, and I was just like literally, I was in bed yesterday, and I was like, I told Alex, I was like, Alex, I can't move. You know what I mean? And I hit a brick wall. And he told me, he's like, because he's been with me for a year and 1 month now, and he goes, well, it took you a year and 1 month to hit the wall.
He's like, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, but it happens, and I was able to rest.
Yeah.
And I was a bum yesterday, like just watched. I don't watch TV. Like, I was like, I'm gonna watch
I need
Netflix,
a day to do nothing.
And yeah, so
you needed we call that a reset day. Yes. If you have too many reset days though, then you're like, oh,
no,
too far.
that's all I need. I'm good for another probably year and a half.
That's amazing. Well, it's been amazing to have you on the show. And just kind of share a little bit about your journey. And like I said, I think that when you can be open enough to share that, it gives people permission to be like, wow, if she started from that and she was able to like forgive her mom and all these things and create the success, like, why can't I do it? So that's what like my intention on this show is to give people other permission to dream big, to become the highest version of themselves, and I think it does go back to what you said, like start with surrounding yourself with people that you aspire to be like or want to be in the room with or have conversations with. If you're currently in a situation where you're like, why am I in this room? You have the power to change it. I love that. So I love it. Yeah. Well, where can people get your book?
They can go on Amazon and just put Melissa Waage, Detoxify Your Mind.
Cool.
And
it looks, what I like about it is like, I like that it kind of feels like a short read.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a vacation read kind of thing.
100%. And it's also a guidebook, so you can write in it.
Oh, cool.
So instead of just reading, I give you different exercises on there where you write a forgiveness statement, a mission statement.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like journaling too.
Yeah, it's like journaling. And then you go through like assessments of where your mindset's at. We evaluate that there too.
I like it. It's literally like a book / workbook. I mean, me and Garrett are going to town next week, and I'll take this will be my beach book.
Yay!
That's awesome.
Let me know what you think.
Where can they find you on Instagram?
Instagram, you can find me Melissa Waage, so MELITSAWAAGE, and then Epic Talks Miami on Instagram as well.
How do people come to an Epic Talk? Can they just buy tickets when they're available?
Yeah. Okay. Well, they're always available.
Okay,
so
cool.
www.epictalksmiami.com.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's fun to get to know you more. I feel like I kind of knew you, but it's fun to finally meet you in person. I met you once before, but actually have you in my living room.
Yeah, we were hanging out after the event. Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah, that was, well, I had a few shots of tequila, so I was having a good time.
We were all having a good time.
We were having a good time. But thanks for being on the show. I'm sure we'll do some stuff together in the future. I'm excited to be here in Miami, and I know you're a very well-connected person, so it's just like, it's fun to get to know you in person and have you on the show today. So thank you for being here. All right, you guys, if you are listening to this show, definitely share it. Like every time I do a podcast, I do it because I love meeting people, hearing their stories and connecting. But I also believe that through connecting, we can share it. And that's truly how all of us can stay connected and continue to grow. So share this show if you're listening. And thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Danielle K White Show.